done a show in this space, so we're very excited to see how this goes. Really glad we fit this many chairs in here. They just put like 3 more rows in earlier today. But this space, if you didn't see, is actually basically like an original French salon that was basically like airlifted into the space. So all of this is actual historical stuff. All of that goes to say, please do not touch anything or it's my head on the chopping block. And I would like to keep it on my neck. With that being said, let me just talk a little bit about the show. This is an Oscar Wilde show, so it's very comedic. It has a lot of kind of satire about England at the time in which the show takes place, which is going to be late 19th century. A little bit of a notice, there is one small little suicide joke. If that is something that bothers you, just be aware of it and that it is going to happen. It's nothing much, it gets glossed right over, but it is there, so I do want to let you know. As for bathrooms, if you go back out the way you came, where those weird clementines were, to the right of there, I don't know what that is, don't ask. It's freaking me out too. But to the right of there are some bathrooms over there. They are going to be single stall, gender neutral bathrooms, so feel free to go if you need. We will be having a 10-minute intermission, and the show runs about 2 hours with that intermission included, so you're more than welcome to go to the bathroom during the intermission. If you do really need to go, you can go whenever. Don't worry, we're not going to trap you here. But that is for the most part all there is. If there is some emergency, we will go out the exact same way that you came in. Other than that, all I have for you is some upcoming student theater events. So Forbidden Planet Productions, one of our other student theater companies, is putting up Something Wrong March 30th through April 1st in the Vern Black Box, as well as Rent, April 27th through 29th in the Vern Black Box. The GW Shakespeare Company, our company, will also be putting up Romeo and Juliet, April 15th in Elizabeth Square 80. And As You Like It, April 27th through 29th in the Vets Theater. Generic Theater Company is putting up Rabbit Hole March 23rd through 25th in the Vernon Black Box. And the 14th grade players will be putting up Mousetrap April 20th through 22nd in the Vernon Black Box. And then a chorus line is happening next weekend. Woo! And you know where it's happening? In Vets Theater. We figured it out, guys. Teamwork. But without further ado, we'll get started with the show.
Did you hear what I was playing, Lane?
I didn't think you'd like to listen, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry about that, for your sake. I don't play accurately. Well, no one can play accurately. But I play with the most wonderful expression. As for the piano, sentiment is my forte. I say the science for life.
Yes, sir.
We got those cucumber sandwiches cut up for Lady Bracknell, have we not?
Yes, sir.
Oh, by the way, Lane, I saw that in your book, when Mr. Shorman and Mr. Worthing were dining with us last night, 8 bottles of champagne were having listed as being consumed.
Yes, sir. 8 bottles and a pint.
Why is it at a bachelor's establishment the servants invariably drink the champagne? I asked merely for information.
Well, I attribute it to the superior quality of the wine, sir. In my experience, married households rarely have champagne of the first-rate brand.
Oh, is marriage so demoralizing as that?
I think it a rather pleasant state, sir. I have very little experience of it of myself. I have only been married once, and that was due to a misunderstanding between myself and a young person.
I don't think I care much about family life.
No, indeed, sir. It's not a very interesting topic. I try not to think of it myself.
Very natural, I'm sure. That'll do it.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, Lane's views on marriage seem remarkably lax. Really, if the lower orders can set us a good example, what on earth is the use of them? They seem to me to lack any sense of moral responsibility.
Mr. Ernest Worthing, sir.
Ernest! How are you? What brings you up to town?
Oh, pleasure, pleasure. What else should bring anyone here these days? Being as usual, I see Algernon.
I think it is customary in polite society to take some slight refreshment at 5 o'clock. Where have you been since Thursday?
In the country.
What on earth do you do there?
When one is in town, one amuses oneself. When one is in the country, one amuses other people. It is excessively boring.
Who are these people you amuse?
Oh, neighbors.
Got nice neighbors in your part of Shropshire?
Perfectly horrid. Never speak to one of them.
How immensely you must amuse them. By the way, Shropshire is your county, isn't it?
Shropshire? Well, yes, of course. Hello, why all these cups? Why cucumber sandwiches. Why such reckless extravagance in one so young? Who's coming to tea?
Oh, merely Aunt Augusta and Gwendolen.
How perfectly delightful.
Yes, that is all very well. But I must say, Aunt Augusta will not quite approve of your being here.
May I ask why?
My dear fellow, the way you flirt with Gwendolen is perfectly disgraceful. It is almost as disgraceful as the way Gwendolen flirts with you.
I am in love with Gwendolen. I've come up to town expressly to propose to her.
I thought you would come up for pleasure. I call that business.
How utterly unromantic you are.
I don't see anything romantic about proposing. It is very romantic to be in love, but there is nothing romantic about a definite proposal. Why, one may be accepted. One usually is, I believe. And then the excitement is all over. The very essence of romance is uncertainty. If I ever get married, I shall certainly try to forget the fact.
Oh, I have no doubt about that, dear Algie. The divorce court was specially invented for people whose memories are so curiously constituted.
Yes, there's no doubt about that. Divorces are made in heaven. Do not touch those cucumber sandwiches. They are meant specially for Aunt Augusta.
Well, you've been eating them all this time.
That is quite a different matter. She is my aunt. Here, have some bread and butter. Bread and butter is for Gwendolen. Gwendolen is devoted to bread and butter.
Very good bread and butter it is, too.
My dear fellow, you need not act as if you were going to eat it all. You act as if you were married to Gwendolen already. You were not married to her already, and I don't think you ever will be.
Why on earth do you say that?
Well, in the first place, girls never marry the men they flirt with. Girls don't think it right.
Oh, that is
No,
nonsense.
it isn't. It explains the extraordinary number of bachelors one sees all over the place. And in the second place, I don't give my consent.
Your consent?
My dear fellow, Gwendolen is my cousin. And before I allow you to marry her, you shall have to answer this whole question about Cecily.
Cecily? What do you mean by Cecily? Algie, what do you mean by Cecily? I don't know anyone with the name Cecily.
Bring me that cigarette case Mr. Willie left the last time he dined here.
Yes, sir.
You mean to say you've had it all this time? Well, I wish to goodness you told me. I've been writing frantic letters to Scotland Yard about it. Was very nearly offering a large reward.
Oh, well, I wish you would have offered one. I am more than usually hard up.
Well, there's no use in offering a large reward now that the thing is found, is there?
Oh, that's rather mean of you to say, Ernest. But, now that the thing is here, and I read the inscription inside, I find out the thing is not yours after all.
Well, of course it's mine. You've seen me with it 100 times. And besides, you have no right whatsoever to read what's inside a private cigarette case. That is a very ungentlemanly thing.
Oh, it is rather absurd to have a hard and fast rule about what one should read and what one shouldn't. Modern life would be a very tedious task if one would abide by what one shouldn't read.
I'm quite aware of the fact, and I don't propose to discuss modern life. It isn't the sort of thing one should discuss in private. Just give me back my cigarette case.
Yes, but this isn't your cigarette case. This cigarette case is from someone by the name of Cecily. And you said you didn't know anybody of that name.
Well, if you want to know, Cecily happens to be my aunt.
Your aunt?
Yes, my aunt. Charming old lady she is, too. Lives at Tunbridge Wells. Just give it back to me, Algie.
Yes, but why does your aunt call herself Little, and she lives at Tunbridge Wells? From little Cecily, with her fondest love.
My dear fellow, what on earth is there in that? Some ants are tall, some ants are not tall. That doesn't matter then. Surely an ant may be allowed to decide for herself. You seem to think that every ant should be exactly like your aunt. And that is absurd. Oh, for heaven's sake, just give me back my cigarette case.
Yes, but why does your aunt call you her uncle? From little Cecily with her fondest love to her dear uncle. Jack, I must admit, I have no objection to an aunt being a small ant, but why an aunt at all would call you her uncle, I have no idea. And besides, your name isn't Jack, it's Ernest.
It isn't Ernest, it's Jack.
You have always told me it was Ernest. You have answered to the name of Ernest. I have introduced you to everybody as Ernest. You look as if you were Ernest. You are the most earnest-looking person I've ever seen in my life. It is perfectly absurd you say your name is Ernest. It's on your cards. Why, here is one of them. Mr. Ernest Worthing, before the Albany. I'll keep this as proof of your name being Ernest if ever you attempt to deny to me, Gwendolen, or anyone else.
Well, my name is Ernest in town and Jack in country, and the cigarette case was given to me in the country.
Yes, but that doesn't explain why your aunt calls you her uncle. Come, boy, get the thing out at once.
My dear fellow, you talk exactly as if you were a dentist. It is a very vulgar thing to talk like a dentist would want, isn't it? A dentist? It produces a false impression.
But that is exactly what dentists do. Now come, give me the whole thing straight out. I always suspected you of being a secret and confirmed Bunburyist, and I'm quite certain of it now.
Bunburyist? What on earth do you mean by a Bunburyist?
I will tell you the meaning of that incomparable expression as soon as you explain to me why you were Ernest in town and Jack in the country.
Well, produce my cigarette case first.
Here you are. Now produce your explanation and pray make it improbable.
My dear fellow, there's nothing improbable about my explanation at all. In fact, it's perfectly ordinary. The late Mr. Thomas Cardew made me, in his will, guardian to his granddaughter, Miss Cecily Cardew. Cecily, who addresses me as her uncle out of motives of respect that you could not possibly understand, lives in my place in the country under the charge of her admirable governess, Miss Prism.
Where is that place in the country, by the way?
That is nothing to you, dear boy. You are not going to be invited. I may tell you quite candidly, the place is not in Shropshire.
No, I suspected that, my dear fellow. I myself have Bunbury all over Shropshire on exactly 2 separate occasions. Now tell me, why are you Ernest in town and Jack in the country?
My dear fellow, I'm not sure whether you'll be able to understand my real motives. You're hardly serious enough. When one is placed in the position of guardian, one must adopt a high moral tone on all affairs, and as a high moral tone is conducive to neither one's health nor one's happiness, I have invented a very useful younger brother by the name of Earnest, who lives in the Albany and gets into the most dreadful scrapes. That, my dear fellow, is the whole truth, pure and simple.
Oh, the truth is rarely pure and never simple. Modern life would be very tedious if it were either, and modern literature, a complete impossibility.
Now, wouldn't it all be a bad thing?
Oh, literary criticism is not your dear forte, my fellow. Don't try it. You should much leave that thing to people who haven't been to university. They do it so well in daily papers. What you really are is a Bunburyist. You are one of the most advanced Bunburyists I've ever known.
What on earth do you mean by a Bunburyist?
You invented a very useful younger brother by the name of Ernest, so that you can go into town whenever you like. I invented a very invaluable friend called Bunbury, so that I may go into the country whenever I like. Oh, Bunbury is perfectly invaluable. You see, if it weren't for Bunbury's extraordinary bad health, I would not be able to dine with you tonight at Willis's. For I've been engaged in Augusta for more than a week.
I haven't asked you to dine with me anywhere tonight.
I know, it is very irresponsible of you to not send out invitations. Very irritable to not receive invitations.
You had much better dine with your Aunt Augusta.
Oh, I will do no such thing. For once, I dine there on Monday. And dining once a week is more than enough to be with one's own relations. Second, she was settled with either no woman at all, or 2, being seated between 2 women, talking irritably between each other. Oh, absolutely disgraceful. And 3, she will sit next to Mary Farquhar, who flirts with her own husband across the dinner table. It is perfectly disgraceful. Airing one's dirty laundry out in public, that thing in London is extraordinarily on the rise. But let me tell you about Bunbury. Let me tell you the rules.
I am not a Bunburyist at all. In fact, if Gwendolen accepts me, I'm going to kill my brother. Indeed, I think I'll kill him in any case. Cecily's a bit too interested in him. It is rather a bore. So, I'm going to get rid of Ernest, and I strongly advise you to do the same with with your friend with the absurd name.
Nothing will induce me to part with Bunbury. And if you ever get married to Gwendolen, which I think is a complete impossibility, you shall be very glad to know Bunbury. A man who doesn't know Bunbury has a very tedious time with it.
That is nonsense. If I marry a charming girl like Gwendolen, she's the only girl I ever saw in the world that I would marry, I certainly won't want to know Bunbury.
Then your wife will. You would seem to realize that in married life, 3 is company, and 2 is none.
That, my dear fellow, is the theory that corrupt French drama has been compounding for the last 50 years.
And that the happy English household has proved in half the time.
Oh, for heaven's sake, don't try to be cynical. It's perfectly easy to be cynical.
My dear fellow, it isn't easy to be anything nowadays. There's such a lot of beastly competition about. Ah, that must be Aunt Augusta. Only relatives or creditors ever rate in that Wagnerian manner. Now, if I can get her out of the way for at least 10 minutes so that you can propose to Gwendolen, may I dine with you tonight at Willis's?
Well, I suppose so, if you want to.
But you must be serious about it. I hate people who are not serious about dining. It is so shallow of them.
Lady Bracknell and Miss Fairfax.
Good afternoon, dear Algernon. I hope you are
doing very well, Aunt Augusta.
It's not quite the same thing. In fact, the two things rarely go together.
Oh, dear me, you're smart.
I am always smart. Aren't I, Mr. Worthing?
You're quite perfect, Miss Fairfax.
Oh, I hope I'm not that. It would leave no room for developments, and I intend to develop in many directions.
I'm sorry, I'm late, Algernon. I'm obliged to call on dear little Avery. I've met her since her poor husband's death. I never saw a woman so altered. She looks quite 20 years younger. And I'll have a cup of tea, and one of those nice cucumber sandwiches you promised me.
Certainly, Aunt Augusta.
Won't you come and sit here, Gwendolen?
Thanks, Mama. I'm quite comfortable where I am.
Lane, why are there no more than one cucumber sandwiches? I ordered them specially.
There were no cucumbers at the market this morning, sir. I checked twice.
No cucumbers?
Not even for ready bunny, sir.
Thank you, Lane. That'll do.
Thank you, sir.
I am most distressed, Aunt Augusta, that there are no more cucumbers to make more sandwiches, even for ready money.
Because it makes no matter, Algernon. I have cucumbers with Lady Avery. Seems to me to be living entirely with pleasure now.
Oh, I hear her hair is turning quite gold from grief.
It certainly has changed colour. From what cause, I of course cannot say. I've quite a treat for you tonight, Algernon. I'm going to send you down to Mary Farquhar. She's such a nice woman, so attentive to my husband. That's just a life of torture.
I'm afraid, Aunt Augusta, I shall have to give up the pleasure of dining with you tonight after all.
I hope not, Algernon. You put my table completely out. Go on, we'll have to dine upstairs. Fortunately, he is accustomed to that.
It is a great disappointment and a great bore, but I have just had a telegram to say that my poor friend Bunbury is terribly ill. Again. They seem to think I should be with him.
This is very strange. Mr. Bunbury seems to suffer from curiously bad health.
Oh, yes, Bunbury is terribly ill.
I must say, Algernon, I think it is high time that Mr. Bunbury made up his mind whether he's going to live or die. This shilly-shallying with questions absurd. Illness of any kind is hardly a thing to be encouraged nowadays. Health is the primary duty of life. I'm always telling that to my poor uncle. He never seems to take much notice as far as any illnesses ailments goes. I should be much obliged if you ask Mr. Bunbury for me to be kind enough not to relapse on Saturday. For I rely on you to arrange my music. It's my last receptions. One wants something that will inspire conversation, particularly at the end of the season, when everyone has practically said whatever it is they have to say. Which in most cases was probably not much.
I will speak to Bunbury, Aunt Augusta, if he is still conscious. The music is a great difficulty. You see, when one plays good music, well, no one talks. When one plays bad music, everybody does. Although, I'll look over the program, but even with all these next group for a moment.
Thank you, Algernon. It's very thoughtful of you. I'm sure the program will be delightful after a few explanations. French songs I cannot possibly allow. People always seem to think they're improper and either look shocked, which is vulgar, or laugh, which is worse. But German sounds a thoroughly respectable language, and indeed I believe is so. Gwendolen, you will accompany me.
Certainly, Mama.
Charming day it has been, Mrs. Fairfax.
Pray don't talk to me about the weather, Mr. Worthing. Whenever people talk to me about the weather, I always feel quite certain they mean something else, and that makes me so nervous.
Oh, well, I do mean something else.
I thought so. In fact, I am never wrong.
I would like to be allowed to take advantage of Lady Bracknell's temporary absence.
Well, I would certainly advise you to do so. Mamma has a way of coming back suddenly into a room that I've often had to speak to her about.
Miss Fairfax, ever since I met you, I have admired no one else in the world since I met you.
Yes, I'm quite aware of the fact, and I often wish that, in public at any rate, you would be more demonstrative. For me, you have always had an irresistible fascination, and well, even before I met you, I was far from indifferent to you. We live, as I hope you know, Mr. Worthing, in an age of ideals. The fact is constantly mentioned in the more expensive monthly magazines, and has reached the provincial pulpits, I'm told, and my ideal has always been to love someone of the name of Earnest. So there is something in that name of inspires absolute confidence. The moment Algernon first mentioned to me that he had a friend called Earnest, I knew I was destined to love you.
You really love me, Gwendolen?
Passionately.
Oh, darling, you don't know how happy you've made me.
Oh, my own Earnest.
But you don't really mean to say that if my name wasn't Earnest, you couldn't love me?
But your name is Earnest.
Oh, well, yes, I know, but supposing it was something else, do you mean to say that you couldn't love me then?
Well, that is clearly a metaphysical speculation, and like most metaphysical speculations, has very little reference at all to the actual facts of real life as we know them.
Well, personally, darling, I don't care much for the name of Earnest. I don't think it suits me.
It suits you perfectly. It is a divine name. It is a music of its own. It produces vibrations.
Well, really, I think there are much nicer names. I think Jack, for instance, a charming name.
Jack? No, there's very little music in the name Jack. If any at all, indeed. It does not thrill. It produces absolutely no vibrations. Look, I have known several Jacks, and they all, without exception, were more than usually plain. Besides, Jack is a notorious domesticity for John, and I pity any woman married to a man called John. She would probably never be allowed to know the entrancing pleasure of a single moment's solitude. The only really safe name is Earnest.
Gwendolen, you must get christened at once. I mean, we must get married at once. There's no time to waste.
Married, Mr. Worthing?
Well, surely you know that I love you, and you led me to believe, Miss Fairfax, that you were not absolutely indifferent to me.
Oh, I adore you. But you haven't proposed to me yet. When nothing has been said at all about marriage, the subject has not even been touched on.
Well, may I propose to you now?
I think it would be an admirable opportunity. And to spare you any possible disappointment, I think it only fair to tell you quite frankly beforehand that I am fully determined to accept you.
Oh, Gwendolen!
Yes, Mr. Worthing, what have you got to say to me?
You know what I've got to say to you.
Yes, but you don't say it.
Gwendolen, will you marry me?
Of course I will, darling! Oh, how long you have been about it, but I'm afraid you have had very little experience in how to propose.
Now, one, I've never loved anyone in the world but you.
Oh, yes, but men often propose for practice. I know my brother Gerald does. All my girlfriends tell me so. What wonderfully blue eyes you have, Ernest. They are quite blue. I hope you will always look at me just like that, especially when there are other people present.
Mr. Worthing, rise, sir, from that semi-recumbent posture. It is most indecorous.
Mamma, I must beg you to retire. This is no place for you. Besides, Mr. Worthing has not quite finished yet.
Finished what, may I ask?
I am engaged to be married to Mr. Worthing.
Pardon me, you are not engaged to anyone. When you become engaged, I, or your father, should self-permitting, will inform you of the fact. The engagement should come on a girl as a surprise, pleasant or unpleasant as the case may be. It is hardly a matter that she could be allowed to decide for herself. And now I have a few questions to put to you, Mr. Worthing. While I am making these inquiries, you, Gwendolen, will wait for me below in the carriage.
But Mamma!
The carriage, Gwendolen. Gwendolen, the carriage.
Yes, Mamma.
Take a seat, Mr. Worthing.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell. I prefer standing.
I feel bound to tell you that you are not down on my list of eligible young men, though I have the same list as the dear Duchess of Littleton has. We work together in fact. However, I am quite ready to enter your name should your answers be really affectionate to my requirements. Do you smoke?
Well, yes, I must admit I smoke.
I'm glad to hear it. A man should always have an occupation of some kind. May I learn as it is? How old are you?
29.
Very good age to be married at. I've always been of the opinion that a man who desires to get married should know everything or nothing. Which do you know?
I knew nothing, Lady Bracknell.
I'm pleased to hear it. I don't approve of anything that tampers with natural ignorance. Ignorance is like a delicate exotic fruit. Touch it and the bloom is gone. The whole theory of modern education is radically unsound. Fortunately, in England, at any rate, it produces no effect whatsoever. If it did, it would prove a serious danger to the upper classes. Probably need to act survivors as you go to the square. What's your income?
Between 7,000 and 8,000 a year.
In land or investments?
In investments, chiefly.
That sounds satisfactory. What between the duties expected of one during one's lifetime and the duties exacted from one after one's death? Land has ceased to be either a profit or a pleasure. It gives one position and prevents one from keeping it up. So what can you say about that?
Well, I do own a country house with some land attached, about 1,500 acres, but I don't depend on it for my chief income. In fact, I think the poachers get more out of it than I do.
A country house? How many bedrooms? At that point, can we put it up afterwards? You have a townhouse up there. A girl with simple, unspoiled nature like Gwendolen would hardly be expected to reside in the country.
Well, yes, I do own a townhouse in Belgrave Square. It is led by the year to Lady Bloxham. However, I can get it back whenever I like. At 6 months' notice.
Lady Bloxham? Where would you know her?
Oh, she's quite advanced in her years. She doesn't go about often.
Nowadays, that is no guarantee of respectability of character. What number in Belgrave Square?
149.
Fashionable side. I thought there was something. However, that could easily be altered.
Do you mean the fashion or the side?
Both, if necessary, I can do. What are your politics?
I am afraid I have none. I am a liberal unionist.
They count as forwards. They dine in the evenings or come at any rate. Not minor matters. Are your parents living?
I have lost both my parents.
Both? To lose one parent, Mr. Worthing, may be regarded as a misfortune. To lose both? Looks like carelessness. He was evidently a man of some note. Was he born in what the radical papers call the purple comet, or did he rise from the ranks of the aristocracy?
I am afraid I don't know, Lady Bracknell. I said I had lost both my parents. It would be nearer to the truth to say that my parents lost me. I don't actually know who I am by birth. I was found.
Found?
Yes, found by the late Mr. Thomas Cardew, a gentleman of a very kind and charitable disposition. He found me and adopted me when I was a young boy and gave me the name of Worthing because he had a first-class ticket to Worthing in his coat pocket at the time. Now, Worthing is a place in Sussex. It is a seaside resort.
Where did this charitable gentleman buy first-class ticket for this seaside resort from?
In a handbag.
It's a handbag.
Yes, Lady Bracknell, a handbag. A somewhat ordinary black and white leather handbag with some handles to it. An ordinary handbag.
In what locality did this Mr. James or Thomas Cardew come across this ordinary handbag?
In the cloakroom at Victoria Station. It was given to him in mistake for his own.
The cloakroom at Victoria Station?
Yes, the Brighton line.
The lines of material, Mr. Worthing. Confess I feel somewhat bewildered by what you have just told me. To be born, at any rate, bred in a handbag, whether it had handles or not, seems to me to display a contempt for the ordinary decencies of family life. To remind one of the worst excesses of the French Revolution. I presume you know what that unfortunate movement led to. As for the particular locality in which the handbag was found, a cloakroom at a railway station might serve to conceal social indiscretion. It's probably indeed been used for that purpose before now, but it could hardly be regarded as an assured basis for a recognized position in good society.
Well then, Lady Bracknell, may I ask you, what would you advise me to do? I need hardly say that I would do anything in the world to ensure Gwendolen's happiness.
I would strongly advise you, Mr. Worthing, to try and acquire some relations, which produce at any rate one parent by the sex before the season is over.
I don't see how I could possibly manage that, Lady Bracknell. I can produce the handbag at any moment. It is in my dressing room at home. I really think that should satisfy you, Lady Bracknell.
Me? So, what has it to do with me? You can hardly imagine that I, old Lord Bracknell, would dream of allowing our only girl, a girl brought up with utmost care, to marry into a cloakroom and form an alliance with a parcel. Good morning, Mr. Worthing.
Good morning. For goodness sake, Algie, don't play that ghastly tune! How idiotic you are!
Oh, didn't it come off all right, old boy? Oh, you don't need to say Gwendolen refused you, have you? Oh, she was always refusing people. It is a very trivial nature of hers.
Gwendolen is right as a trivet. As far as she's concerned, we are engaged. Her mother, on the other hand, is perfectly unbearable. I never met such a gorgon. I must confess I don't know exactly what a gorgon is, but I am sure that Lady Bracknell is one. In any case, she is a monster without being a myth, which I suppose is rather unfair. I apologize, Algie. I guess I shouldn't talk about your aunt that way in front of you.
My dear fellow, I love hearing my relations abused! It is the only thing that makes me put up with them. Relations are simply tedious type of people. They don't know how to live, nor do they have the smallest instinct of when to die.
Oh, that is nonsense.
Oh, it isn't.
Well, I won't argue with you about that. You always want to argue about things.
That is what things were originally made for.
On my word, if I thought that, I'd shoot myself. You don't suppose that in 150 years, Gwendolen will turn out to be like her mother, do you?
Oh. All women become like their mothers. That is a tragedy. No man does. That's his.
Is that clever?
Of course it is. As every observation about civilized life should be.
I am sick to death of cleverness. There is cleverness everywhere. Everywhere you go, you meet clever people. It has become such a public nuisance. I wish there would just be a few fools left.
We have.
I should very much like to meet them. What do you think they talk about?
The fools? About the clever people, I suppose.
Fools.
By the way, did you tell Gwendolen about your being Earnest in town, Jack in the country?
My dear fellow, the truth isn't something one tells to a nice, sweet, refined girl like Gwendolen. You have quite the idea about how to behave to women.
The only way to behave to a woman is to make love to her if she's pretty, and to someone else if she's plain.
Oh, that is nonsense.
What about your brother? What about the profligate Earnest?
By the end of the week, I shall have gotten rid of him. I'll say he died in Paris of apoplexy. Lots of people die of apoplexy these days, don't they?
Yes, but that is a hereditary thing, my dear fellow. You would much better say a severe chill.
Are you sure that a severe chill isn't hereditary?
Of course it isn't!
Okay. Then that takes care of that. My poor brother Ernest, carried off in Paris by a severe chill. That takes care of that.
Didn't you say your ward was a little too enamored with your brother? Won't she feels lost a great deal?
My dear fellow, I'm very glad to say that Miss Cardew is not a simple romantic girl like that. She enjoys long walks, has a capital appetite, and pays no attention whatsoever to her lessons.
I should very much like to meet this Miss Cecily.
I will take very good care to make sure that you never do. She is only 18 and she is excessively pretty.
Does Gwendolen know that you have an excessively pretty ward who is only just 18?
My dear fellow, that isn't the sort of thing one blurts out to people. Besides, Gwendolen and Cecily are sure to become great friends. In fact, I will bet you anything you like that within 30 minutes of meeting each other, they will be calling each other sister.
Oh, women call each other a lot of other things first before they call each other that. Now, my dear fellow, if we want to get a good tip of Willis's, we must get going. It is nearly 7.
Oh, it is always nearly 7.
Well, I am hungry.
I never knew you when you weren't.
What shall we do after dinner? Why don't we go to the theater?
Oh, goodness. No, I hate listening to things.
Why don't we swing around the club?
Oh, no, I hate talking to people.
Why don't we go around the Empire at 10?
No, I loathe looking at things.
Then what shall we do?
Nothing.
Oh, it's excessively hard work doing nothing. However, I don't mind work as long as there's no object of any kind involved.
Miss Fairfax.
Gwendolen, upon my word!
Algie, kindly turn your back. I have something very particular to say to Mr. Wilkes.
Gwendolen, I don't think I can allow this at all!
Algie, you always adopt a strictly immoral attitude toward life. You are not quite old enough to do that.
Gwendolen, darling.
Ernest, we may never be married. From the expression of Mamma's face, I fear we never shall. Oh, few parents nowadays pay any regard to what their children say to them. The old-fashioned respect for the young is fast dying out. Whatever influence I ever had over Mamma, I lost at the age of 3. But, although she may prevent us from becoming man and wife, and I may marry someone else, very often, nothing she can possibly do can alter my eternal devotion to you.
Oh, my own one!
The story of your romantic origin, as related to me by Mamma, with the pleasing comments has naturally stirred the deeper fibers of my being. Your Christian name is an irresistible fascination. The simplicity of your character is exquisitely incomprehensible to me. Your town address at the Albany I have. What is your address in town?
The Manor House, Woolton, Hertfordshire.
There's good postal service, I suppose. It may be necessary to do something desperate. Of course, that will require serious consideration. I will communicate with you daily. How long are you in town?
Until Monday.
Good. Algie, you may turn around now.
Oh, thanks, I've turned around already.
Can we also ring the bell?
You will let me see you to your carriage, will you not, Miss Fairfax?
Certainly.
Lane, I will see Miss Fairfax now.
Yes, sir.
A glass of sherry, Lane.
Yes, sir.
Tomorrow, Lane, I'm going Bunbury.
Yes, sir.
I went back to Monday. You can pack the usual dress pants, shoes, and the usual Bunbury suits.
Yes, sir.
Lane, I hope tomorrow will be a good day.
It never is, sir.
Oh, Lane, you're a perfect pessimist.
I do my best to provide satisfactory service, sir.
There's a sensible, intellectual girl. The only girl I ever saw in my life that I would marry. What on earth is so amusing?
Oh, nothing. I'm just worried about poor Bunbury.
My dear fellow, if you're not careful, your friend Bunbury will get you into a serious scrape someday.
Love scrapes. They're the only things that are never serious.
Oh, that is nonsense. You are always talking nothing but nonsense.
No one ever does.
Cecily, surely such a utilitarian occupation as the watering of flowers is rather multi-sweetie than yours, especially at the moment when intellectual pleasures await you. Your German grammar is on the table. Pray open it to page 15. You'll repeat yesterday's lesson.
But I don't like German. It isn't at all a becoming language, and I know perfectly well that I look quite plain after my German lesson.
You know how anxious your guardian is that you should improve yourself in every way. Pay particular stress on your German as you were leaving the town yesterday. Indeed, he always was stressing your German when he was leaving town.
Uncle Jack is so very serious, sometimes I think he cannot be quite well.
Your guardian appreciates the best of health, and his gravity of demeanor is to be especially commended in one so comparatively young as he is. You have no one with a higher sense of duty, responsibility.
I suppose that's why he often looks a little bored when we three are together.
Cecily, I'm surprised at you. Mr. Worthing has many troubles in his life. I don't Merriman to Trioli would be out of place in this conversation. You must remember his constant anxiety about that unfortunate young man, his brother.
I wish Uncle Jack would allow that unfortunate young man, his brother, to come down here sometime. He might have a good influence on him. I mean, I'm sure you would, Miss Prism, you know, geography and German and things of that kind influence a man very much.
I do not believe that even I could produce any effect on a character who, according to his own brother, is irretrievably weak and vacillating. Indeed, I'm not sure I should desire to reclaim him. I'm not in favor of this modern mania for turning bad people into good people at a moment's notice. As a man sows, so let him reap. You must put away your diary, Cecily. I really don't see why you should keep a diary at all.
I keep a diary in order to record all the wonderful secrets of my life. If I didn't write them down, I should probably forget all about them.
Memory, my dear Cecily, is the diary we carry about with us.
Yeah, but it usually records the things that never happened or could never have happened. I believe that memory is responsible for nearly all the 3-volume novels that Mimi sends us.
You don't speak slightly of the 3-volume novel, Cecily. I wrote one myself in earlier days.
Did you really, Miss Prism? How clever you are. I hope it did not end happily. I don't like novels that end happily. They depress me so much.
The good ended happily and the bad unhappily. That is what fiction means.
I suppose so. That seems rather unfair. Was it ever published?
Alas, no. The manuscript was unfortunately abandoned. I use that word in the sense of lost or mislaid. To your work, child, these speculations are profitless.
But I see dear Dr. Chasuble coming up through the garden.
Dr. Chasuble, this is indeed a pleasure.
And how are we this morning, Miss Prism? You are, I trust, well?
Miss Prism has just been complaining of a slight headache. I think it would do her much good to have a short stroll with you through the park, Dr. Chasuble.
Cecily mentioned nothing of a headache.
I know, Miss Prism, but I felt instinctively that you had a headache. Indeed, I was thinking about that and not about my German lesson when the rector came in.
I hope, Cecily, you are not inattentive.
Oh, I'm afraid I am.
That's strange. Were I fortunate enough to be Miss Prism's pupil, I would hang upon her lips. I spoke metaphorically. My metaphor was drawn from bees. Mr. Worthing, I suppose, has not returned from town yet?
We do not expect him till Monday afternoon.
Ah, yes. He usually likes to spend his Sundays in London. He is not one of those whose sole aim is enjoyment, as by all accounts that unfortunate young man his brother seems to be. But I must not disturb Egeria and her pupil any longer.
Egeria, my name is Letitia, Doctor.
A classical allusion, merely drawn from the pagan authors. I shall see you both, no doubt, at evensong.
I think I will join you for a stroll. I find I do have a headache after all, and a walk might do it good.
With pleasure, Miss Prism. With pleasure. We may go as far as the schools and back.
That would be delightful. Cecily, you will read your political economy in my absence. The chapter on the fall of the review may omit. It's a bit too sensational. These metallic problems have their melodramatic side.
Horrid political economy, horrid geography, horrid.
Miss, Mr. Earnest Worthing has just ridden over from the station. He and his brother's luggage with him.
Mr. Ernest Worthing before the Albany W. Uncle Jack's brother! Did you tell him Mr. Worthing was in town?
Yes, he seemed very disappointed. But when I told him you were in this prison where the God he wanted to speak.
Tell Mr. Ernest Worthing to come here and go talk to a housekeeper about finding a room for him.
Yes, miss.
I've never met anyone truly wicked before. I feel rather frightened. I'm so afraid he'll look just like everyone else. He does.
You must be my cousin Cecily, I am sure.
I am your cousin Cecily, and you, I see from your card, are my cousin Ernest, Uncle Jack's brother, my wicked cousin Ernest.
You mustn't think I'm wicked, cousin Cecily. You mustn't think I'm wicked at all.
Oh, well then you've certainly been deceiving us all in a very devious manner. I hope you've not been truly good, but pretending to be wicked all this time. That would be hypocrisy.
Well, I must admit I have been rather reckless.
I'm glad to hear it.
In fact, I've been bad in my own small way.
I'm not sure you should be so proud of that, but it does sound rather pleasurable.
It is much pleasanter being here with you.
I can't understand how you're here at all. Uncle Jack won't be back until Monday.
Oh, yes, I must take the first train up to London. I have a business appointment I am anxious to miss.
Couldn't you miss it anywhere but in London?
The appointment is in London.
Well, I do understand the importance of not keeping a business engagement if one wants to retain any of the sense of beauty in life, but I really think you ought to wait until Monday. I know Uncle Jack is anxious to talk to you about your emigrating.
About my what?
You're emigrating. He's in town now buying your outfit.
Jack Brightman? No, he has no taste in style at all.
I wouldn't be too worried about your style. Uncle Jack is sending you to Australia.
Australia? I'd sooner die!
Well, he said at dinner on Wednesday that you'd have to choose between this world, the next world, and Australia.
The accounts I received of the next world in Australia are not particularly comforting. This world is more than enough for me, cousin Cecily.
But are you good enough for it?
I'm afraid I'm not. That is why I have come here, to reform myself. You might make that your mission, cousin Cecily.
I'm afraid I've no time this afternoon.
What if I went about reforming myself this afternoon?
It's rather quixotic of you, but I think you should try.
Well, thank you. I feel better already.
You're looking a little worse.
Oh, that is because I'm hungry.
Forgetful of me, I should have remembered that when one is resigned to lead an entirely new life, they need regular and wholesome meals. Please, come inside.
must have a buttonhole first. I never eat without having a buttonhole first.
Amara, tell me out.
A pink rose would be better.
Why?
Because you were like a pink rose, Cecily.
I don't think you should say things to me like that. Miss Prism never speaks to me that way.
And Miss Preston is a soft-spoken old lady. You are the most prettiest girl I have ever seen.
Miss Prism says all the books are a snare.
Well, and every man sensible enough would like to be caught up.
I don't think I would care to catch a sensible man. I wouldn't know what to talk to him about.
You are much too alone, Doctor. You should get married. A misanthrope I can understand, but a womanthrope never.
Believe me, I do not deserve so neologistic phrase. The precept, as well as the practice of the primitive church, was distinctly against matrimony.
That is precisely the reason why the primitive church has not lasted up until the present day. You do not seem to realize, dear Doctor, that by persistently remaining single, one subjects himself to permanent public temptation. Men should be more careful. This very celibacy has led weaker vessels astray.
But is a man not equally attractive when married?
No married man is ever attractive, except for to his wife.
And often I've been told not even to her.
Well, that depends on the intellectual sympathies of the woman. Maturity can always be relied upon. Ripeness can be trusted. Young women are green. I spoke horticulturally. My metaphor was drawn from the fruits. But where is Cecily?
Perhaps she followed us to the schools.
Mr. Worthing!
Mr. Worthing!
This is indeed a surprise. We did not look for you till Monday afternoon.
I have returned sooner than I expected. Dr. Chasuble, I trust you are well.
Dear Mr. Worthing, I trust that this garb of woe does not betoken some terrible calamity.
My brother!
More shameful debts and extravagance.
Still leading his life of pleasure.
Dead.
Your brother Ernest, dead?
Quite dead.
What a lesson for him. I trust he shall profit from it.
Dear Mr. Worthing, I offer you my sincere condolences. You at least have the consolation of knowing you're always the most generous and forgiving of brothers.
Oh, poor Ernest. He had many tragic faults, but it is a sad, sad blow.
Very sad indeed. Were you with him at the end?
No. He died abroad in Paris. In fact, I recently received a telegram from the manager of the Grand Hotel.
Was the cause of death mentioned?
A severe chill, it seems.
As a man sows, so let him reap.
Charity, dear Miss Prism. Charity. None of us are perfect. I myself am peculiarly susceptible to draughts. Will the interment take place here?
No. He expressed a desire to be buried abroad in Paris.
In Paris! I fear that Harleywood's in a serious state of mind at the last. Would no doubt wish me to make some slight allusion to the tragic domestic affliction next Sunday. My sermon on the meaning of manna and the wilderness can be easily adapted to almost any occasion, joyful or, as in the present case, distressing. I have preached it at harvest celebrations, christenings, confirmations, on days of humiliation and festal days. The last time I delivered it was at a cathedral as a charity sermon for the Society for the Prevention of Discontent among the Upper Orders. The bishop who was present was much struck by some of the analogies I drew.
Ah, that reminds me. Dr. Chasuble, you mentioned christenings, right? Surely you know how to christen. I mean... Surely you've been christening your whole life, haven't you?
It is, I regret to say, one of the Reverend's most constant duties in the parish. I have often spoken to the lower classes on the subject, but they do not seem to know what thrift is.
Is there any particular infant in whom you are interested, Mr. Worthing? Your brother was unmarried, was he not?
Oh, yes.
People who live entirely for pleasure usually are.
But it is not for any one infant, Dr. Chasuble. I'm very fond of children. No. The fact is that I myself would like to be christened this afternoon, if it would please you.
But surely you have been christened already.
I don't remember anything about it.
Have you any grave doubts on the subject?
I certainly intend to have. But of course I don't know if the thing would bother you, or if you think that I am a bit too old.
Not at all. The sprinkling and indeed the immersion of adults is a perfectly canonical practice.
Immersion?
You need have no apprehensions. Sprinkling is all that is necessary, or I think advisable, and whether it's so changeable. What hour would you wish the ceremony to be performed?
Oh, I might drop by around 5 if that would suit you.
Perfectly, perfectly. I have 2 similar cases to be performed at that time. A case of twins that occurred recently on one of the outlying cottages on your estate. Poor Jennings, the carter, a most hard-working man.
Oh, well, I don't see much point in being christened along with other babies. I would think it rather childish. How about 5:30 instead? Would that suit you?
Admirably, admirably. And now, dear Mr. Worthing, I will not intrude any longer into a house of sorrow. Oh, I would merely beg you not to be too much bowed down by grief. It seems to us bitter trials are often blessings in disguise.
This seems to me to be the blessing of an extremely obvious kind.
Uncle Jack! Oh, I am pleased to see you back, but what horrible clothes you have got on. Do go and change them.
Cecily!
My child, my child!
Uncle Jack, what is the matter with you? You look as if you had a toothache. And I have got such a surprise for you. Guess who's in the dining room? Your brother. Your brother, Ernest. He arrived about half an hour ago.
What nonsense! I haven't got a brother!
Don't say that. However badly he may have behaved to you in the past, he is still your brother. You wouldn't be so heartless as to disown him, would you? I'll go tell him to come out, and you will shake hands with him, won't you?
Are very joyful tidings.
After we've all been resigned to his loss, his sudden return seems to me peculiarly distressing.
My brother is in the dining room. I don't know what it all means. I think it is perfectly absurd.
Good heavens! Oh, Brother John, I have come down to tell you that I am very sorry for all the trouble I have caused, and I hope to not be so much trouble in the future.
Uncle Jack, you are not going to refuse your own brother's hand.
Nothing will induce me to take his hand. I think his coming down here disgraceful, and he knows perfectly well why.
Uncle Jack, do be nice. There is some good in everyone. Ernest has just been telling me about his poor friend Mr. Bunbury, who he goes to visit so often. Isn't there good in someone who is kind and leaves the pleasures of life behind to go sit by his bedside?
Bunbury. He has been talking about Bunbury, has he?
Yes, we all about poor Mr. Bunbury and his terrible state of health.
Bunbury. Well, I won't have him talk to you about Bunbury or about anything else. It is enough to drive one perfectly frantic.
I admit the faults were all on my side, but I must say, Brother John's coldness to me is very painful, especially considering this is the first time I've come to stay here.
Uncle Jack, if you don't shake Ernest's hand, I will never forgive you.
Never forgive me.
Never, never, never.
Well, fine. If this is the last time I shall ever do it.
It's pleasant, is it not, to see so perfect a reconciliation? I think we might leave the 2 brothers together.
Cecily, you will come with us.
Certainly, Miss Prism, my little task of reconciliation is over.
You have done a beautiful action today, my child.
You must not be premature in my judgments.
I feel very happy.
Algie, you young scoundrel, you have got to get out of here immediately! I don't allow any Bunbury here!
I have put Mr. Ernest's things in the room next to yours, sir.
What?
His luggage, sir.
His luggage?
Yes, sir. 3 portmanteaus, a dressing case, 2 hat boxes, and a rather large luncheon basket.
Yes, I can't say more than a week this time.
Merriman, order the dog cart at once. Mr. Earnest has suddenly been called back to town.
Yes, sir.
What a fearful liar you are, Jack. I have not been called back to town after all.
Oh, yes, you have.
I have not heard anybody call me.
Your sense of duty calls you back.
No, my sense of duty as a gentleman has never interfered with my pleasures in the smallest degree.
No, that I can understand.
Oh, Cecily, it's a dark.
You are not to speak of Miss Cardew like that. I don't
no change. It is perfectly childish for you to be in deep mourning when the man has come up to stay with you for a whole week as a guest. I call it grotesque.
You are certainly not staying with me for a week as a guest or as anything else. You have got to leave by the 4:05 train out of here.
Well, I would think that you would stay with me if I was in mourning, and likewise I would do the same for you. I should think it very unkind if you didn't.
Well, will you go if I change my clothes?
Oh, certainly, but you must hurry up. I have never seen anybody take so long to change with such little results.
Instead of being always overdressed as you are.
If I am occasionally a little overdressed, I make up for it by being immensely overeducated.
Your vanity is immeasurable. Your conduct an outrage, and your presence in my garden utterly absurd. However, you have got to leave by the 4:05 train, and I hope you will have a pleasant trip back to town. This bun-burying, as you call it, has not been a great success for you.
But it has been a great success. I am in love with Cecily, and that is everything. But I must make arrangements for another bun-bury before I go. Oh, there she is!
Oh, I was just coming to water the roses. I thought you were with Uncle Jack.
He has gone to order the dog cart for me.
Is he going to take you for a nice drive?
He is going to send me away.
Then, do we have to part?
I'm afraid so. It is a very painful parting.
It is always painful to part from one who is known for a very brief space of time. The departure of old friends one can endure with equanimity, but even a brief separation from one who one has just been introduced to is unbearable sorrow.
The dog cart is ready, sir.
It can wait, Merriman, for 5 minutes. Yes, it is.
Cecily, you don't mind me being frank by saying that you are the absolute personification of perfection.
I think your frankness does you great credit, Earnest. If you don't mind, I'd like to copy your remarks down into my diary.
Your diary? I would love to read it. May I?
Oh, no. It's merely a young girl's thoughts and impressions, subsequently meant for publication. When it's released in volume form, I do hope you order a copy, but pray, Earnest, don't stop. I delight in taking down from dictation. I've reached absolute perfection, and I'm quite ready for more. Don't cough. Earnest, when one is dictating, they should always try to speak clearly and not cough. Besides, I don't know how to spell cough.
Cecily, ever since I have set eyes upon you, I have loved you wildly, passionately, devotedly, and hopelessly.
Earnest, I don't think you should say that you love me wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly. Hopelessly doesn't make much sense, does it?
Cecily?
The dog cart is waiting, sir.
Tell her to come around next week at the same time.
Yes, sir.
Uncle Jack would be very annoyed to know that you're staying until next week at the same time.
I don't care about what Uncle Jack thinks. I am in love with you, Cecily. You will marry me, won't you?
Oh, you silly boy, of course! Why, we've already been engaged for 3 months.
For 3 months?
It'll be 3 months on Thursday.
But how did we become engaged?
Well, ever since Uncle Jack confessed to us that he had a brother who was very wicked and bad, of course he became the primary topic of conversation between myself and Miss Prism. And, well, when a man is talked about often, he's always very attractive. And I dare say it foolish of me, but I fell in love with you, Earnest.
Darling, but when was the engagement actually settled?
On the 14th of last February, after being entirely worn out from your complete ignorance of my existence, I decided to settle the matter one way or another. So, after a long internal battle with myself, I accepted you under this tree here, and the next day I went and bought this ring, and this is the bracelet with the true lover's knot I promised you to always wear.
Did I get you this? Oh, it's so pretty, isn't it?
Yes, you wonderfully good taste, Earnest. It's the excuse I've always given you for living such a bad life. And this is the box with all the letters you wrote me.
Letters? But I never wrote you any letters, Cecily.
You need hardly remind me of that, Earnest. I remember only all too well that I was forced to write your letters for you. I wrote always 3 times a week and sometimes oftener.
Oh, do let me read them, Cecily.
Oh, no, they would make you far too conceited. The ones I wrote in the week following calling off our engagement are just so beautiful and so badly spelled that I can hardly read them now without crying a little.
But was our engagement ever broken off?
On the 22nd of last March, you can read the entry if you'd like. Today I've decided to call off my engagement with Earnest. I believe it is better to do so. The weather still continues charming.
But why was the engagement broken off? I am very irritated that you broke off our engagement, Cecily, especially when the weather was so charming.
Well, it hardly would have been a really serious engagement if it had been broken off at least once. Besides, I forgave you before the week was out.
Oh, what a perfect angel you are, Cecily!
My dear handsome boy. I hope your hair curls naturally, does it?
Oh, yes, with a little help from others.
I'm so glad.
And you won't break off our engagement again, will you, Cecily?
Oh, I hardly think I could break off the engagement now that we've actually met. Besides, there is the matter of your name.
Of course! The name, of course!
Don't laugh, darling, but it's always been a girlish dream of mine to marry a man named Earnest. There's something about the name that just inspires utter confidence in someone, and I pity any married woman who's not married to a man named Earnest.
But darling, you wouldn't speak to say that you wouldn't love me if my name was some other name.
Well, what other name?
Any name you like, for example, Algernon. Charming name.
I don't like the name Algernon.
But darling, I don't see why you wouldn't like that name. It's very aristocratical. Half the chaps that go through the divorce court named Algernon. But seriously, Cecily, you wanted me to say that if I was called something else?
I might respect you, Earnest. I might admire your character, but I fear that I would not be able to give you my undivided attention.
Cecily, you have a pastor here who is fully skilled in the rites and rituals of the church.
Yes, Dr. Chasuble is a most learned man. He's never written a single book, so you can imagine how much he knows.
Oh, I must get christened. I must have some business with them at once.
Oh.
Yes, I shall be not gone for more than half an hour.
Well, considering we've been engaged since February 14th and I've only just met you today, it seems awfully long that you would leave me for so long as half an hour. Couldn't you make it 20 minutes?
I'll be back in a minute.
What an impetuous boy he is. I like his hair so much, I must enter his proposal in my diary.
Pardon me, Miss. Miss Fairfax has arrived looking for Mr. Worthing on very important business, Miss Fairfax states.
Is it Mr. Worthing in his library?
No, Miss, he was seen walking in the direction of the rectory some time ago.
Pray ask Miss Fairfax to come here, and Mr. Worthing is sure to be back soon. Oh, you can bring tea.
Yes, Miss.
Miss Fairfax. No doubt one of the many elderly women that Uncle Jack engages in philanthropic work with in London. I don't like women who engage in philanthropic work. I think it's so forward of them.
Miss Fairfax.
Pray, let me introduce myself to you. My name is Cecily Cardew.
Cecily Cardew, what a very sweet name. I have a feeling we are going to be great friends. I like you already more than I can say. And my first impressions of people are never wrong.
How nice of you to like me so much after we've known each other for such a comparatively short time. Pray, sit down.
I can call you Cecily, may I not?
Of course.
And you will always call me Gwendolen.
If you like.
Then that is all quite settled, is it not?
I hope so.
But perhaps this might be a favourable opportunity for my mentioning who I am. My father's Lord Bracknell. You have heard of Papa's post?
I don't think so.
Well, outside the family circle, Papa, I am glad to say, And certainly, once he begins to neglect his domestic duties, he becomes painfully effeminate. Does he not? And I don't like that. It makes men so very attractive. Cecily, Mamma, whose views on education are remarkably strict, has brought me up to be extremely short-sighted. It is part of her system, so do you mind looking at me through my glass?
Oh, not at all, Gwendolen. I'm very fond of being looked at.
You are here on a short visit, I suppose?
Oh, no, I live here.
Really? Your mother, no doubt, or some female relative of advanced years resides here also?
Oh, no, I have no mother, nor in fact any relations.
Indeed.
My guardian and Miss Prism have the arduous task of looking after me.
Your guardian?
I'm Mr. Worthing's ward.
Oh? It's strange he never mentioned to me that he had a ward. How secret. Grows more interesting now, will he? I'm not sure, however, that the news inspires me with feelings of unmixed delight. I am very fond of you, Cecily. I have liked you ever since I met you, but well, I am bound to state that now that I know that you are Mr. Worthing's ward, I cannot help expressing the wish you were, well, just a little older than you seem to be, and not quite so very alluring in appearance. In fact, if I may speak candidly.
Oh, pray do. I believe that when anyone has anything unpleasant to say, they should always be perfectly candid.
Well, to speak with perfect candidness, Cecily, I wish that you were fully 42 and more than usually plain for your age. Ernest has a strong, upright nature. He is the very soul of truth and honor. Disloyalty would be as impossible to him as deception. But even men of the noblest possible moral character are extremely susceptible to the influence of the physical charms of others. Modern, no less ancient history supplies us with many most painful examples of what I refer to. Indeed, if it were not so, history would be quite unreadable.
I beg your pardon, Gwendolen, but did you say Ernest?
Yes.
Well, I'm not Mr. Ernest Worthing's ward. It's his brother, his elder brother.
Well, Ernest never mentioned to me that he had a brother.
I'm sad to say that they've not been on good terms for a very long time.
That accounts for it. Now that I think of it, I have never heard any man mention his brother. The subject seems distasteful to most men. Cecily, you have lifted a load from my mind. It's growing almost anxious. It would have been terrible if any cloud had come across a friendship like ours, would it not? Of course, we're quite sure that it is not Mr. Ernest Worthing who is your ward.
Quite sure. In fact, I'm going to be his.
I beg your pardon.
Gwendolen, I see no reason why I should keep it a secret from you. It's sure to be published in our little country newspaper by the end of the week, but Mr. Ernest Worthing and I are engaged to be married.
My dear Cecily, I feel there must be some slight error. You see, Mr. Ernest Worthing is engaged to me. The announcement will appear in the Morning Post on Saturday at the latest.
Gwendolen, I fear there must be some misconception, but Ernest proposed to me exactly 10 minutes ago.
Well, it is certainly very curious that he asked me to be his wife yesterday afternoon at 5:30. If you would care to verify the incident, pray do so. I never travel without my diary. One should always have something sensational to read on the train. I'm so very sorry, dear Cecily, if it is any disappointment to you, but I'm afraid I have a bad claim.
It would cause me great distress, Gwendolen, if it makes you mentally or physically distraught, but I feel bound to point out that since Ernest proposed to you, he's clearly changed his mind.
If the poor fellow has been entrapped into any foolish promise, I shall consider it my duty to rescue him at once, and with a firm hand.
Whatever entanglement my dear, trusting boy may have gotten himself into before we are married, I will not reproach him with after the fact.
Do you allude to me, Miss Cardew, as an entanglement? You are presumptuous. On an occasion of this kind, it becomes more than a moral duty to speak one's mind, it becomes a pleasure.
Do you imply that I entrapped Ernest into an engagement? How dare you? This is not time for the shallow mask of manners of Gwendolen. When I see a spade, I call it a spade.
Well, I am glad to say that I have never seen a spade. It is obvious our social spheres have been widely different.
Did I hear as usual, miss? Yes, as usual.
Are there many interesting walks in the vicinity, Miss Cardew?
Oh, yes, there's several. From the top of one of the nearby hills, you can see 5 counties.
5 counties? I don't think I should like that. I hate crowds.
I suppose that's why you live in town?
Quite welcome to gardens, Miss Cardew.
So glad you like it, Miss Fairfax.
I had no idea there were any flowers in the country.
Oh, yes, flowers are as common here as people in London.
Personally, I cannot understand how anybody manages to exist in the country, if anybody, who as anybody does. The country always bores me to death.
Oh, so this is that agricultural depression the newspapers have been talking about. It's affecting the aristocracy much of late. It's like an epidemic among them, I've heard. Would you like tea, Miss Fairfax?
Thank you. Detest me. But I require tea.
Sugar?
I never think sugar is not fashionable anymore.
Cake or bread and butter?
Bread and butter. Cake is rarely seen in the best houses nowadays.
Hand this to Miss Fairfax.
Miss Fairfax. You have filled my tea with lots of sugar, and though I ask most distinctly for bread and butter, you have given me cake. I am known for the gentleness of my disposition and the extraordinary sweetness of my nature, but I warn you, Miss Cardew, you may go too far.
To protect my poor, sweet, innocent boy from the machinations of any other girl, there are no lengths to which I would not go.
From the moment I saw you, I distrusted you. I felt you were false and deceitful. I am never deceived in such matters. My first impressions of people are invariably right.
Miss Fairfax, it seems as if I'm trespassing on your valuable time. No doubt you have many other calls of a similar character to make throughout the neighborhood.
Ernest, wait, Ernest.
Oh, Gwendolen, darling.
A moment. May I ask you if you are engaged to be married to this young lady?
To you, little Cecily? Well, of course not. What could have put such an idea into your pretty little head?
Thank you. You may.
Miss Fairfax, I fear there must be some misconception, but the man whose arms are at present around your shoulder is not Mr. Ernest Worthing. This is Mr. John Worthing, my guardian.
I beg your pardon.
This is Uncle Jack.
Jack. Oh!
Here's Ernest. Wait a minute. Ernest, are you engaged to be married to this young lady?
To what young lady? Good heavens, Gwendolen?
Yes, to good heavens, Gwendolen. I mean, to Gwendolen.
Of course not. What could have put such an idea into your pretty...
Thank you. You may.
I thought there must be some slight error. You see, the gentleman who is now embracing you is my cousin, Mr. Algernon Moncrieff.
Algernon Moncrieff? Oh! Is your name Algernon?
I cannot deny it.
Oh, is your name really John?
I could deny it if I liked. I could deny anything if I liked. However, yes, my name is John. It has been John for years.
Gwendolen.
You will call me sister, won't you?
There's just one question I'd like to be permitted to ask my guardian.
An admirable idea. Mr. Worthy, there is just one question I would like to be permitted to put to you. Where is your brother Ernest? We are both engaged to be married to your brother Ernest, so it is a matter of some importance to us to know where your brother Ernest is at present.
Gwendolen, Cecily, it is a very unfortunate thing for me to be forced to speak the truth. It is the first time in my life that I have ever been reduced to such a position, and thus I have little experience in doing anything of the kind. However, I must admit that I have no brother Ernest. I have no brother at all. I never had a brother, and I certainly have no intention of ever having a brother in the future.
No brother at all.
None.
Had you never a brother of any kind?
Nope, not even of any kind.
Well, I am afraid it is quite dear, Cecily. Quite clear that neither of us is engaged to be married to anyone.
It's not a very fortunate position for a young girl to find herself in.
Let us go into the house. They will hardly venture to come after us there.
No, men are so cowardly, aren't they?
This ghastly state of things is what you call bun-burying, I suppose.
Yes. It is a wonderful blunder. It is the most wonderful blunder I ever had in my life.
Well, you've no right whatsoever to bun-bury around here.
One has a right to blunder wherever one chooses. Every serious blunderist knows that.
Serious bun-bury is good heavens!
I must say, as for your conduct, I cannot think of a way you can defend your deceiving a brilliant, intelligent young girl like Gwendolen, especially considering the fact that she is my cousin.
Oh, and I can see no possible excuse for your taking in such a sweet, simple, innocent girl like Miss Cardew, to say nothing of the fact that she is my ward!
I wanted to be engaged to Cecily. I adore her.
I wanted to be engaged to Gwendolen, that's all. I love her. However, I think there is very little chance of your marrying Miss Cardew!
I think you and Miss Fairfax will not be reunited anytime soon.
That's none of your business!
Oh, if it was my business, I wouldn't talk about it. It's very vulgar to talk about one's business, especially now. Only stockbrokers do that, and only at dinner parties.
How you can sit there, calmly eating muffins, when we're in this horrible trouble, I can't make out! You seem to me to be perfectly heartless!
My dear fellow, you cannot eat muffins when you are agitated. The crumbs and butter would get all over your cups. You must eat muffins calm. It is the only way to eat muffins.
I think it's perfectly heartless you're eating muffins at all, under the circumstances.
My dear fellow, everybody that knows me knows that I, when I'm agitated, refuse everything except food and drink. I am currently unhappy, so I am eating muffins. I'm very fond of muffins.
That is no reason to devour them in a greedy manner as you are.
Take some tea cake. I despise tea cake.
Good heavens, I suppose a man may eat his own muffins in his own garden.
I thought you said eating muffins was heartless.
I said it was perfectly heartless of you, under the circumstances. That is a very different thing.
Maybe, but the muffins are the same!
Algie, I wish to goodness you would go.
I will not go without having dinner first. I am very irritated you have not served me dinner. Only people like vegetarians and the like have no dinner nowadays. And I must say, I have made an appointment with Dr. Chasuble to be christened under the name of Earnest at 5:45.
Oh, my dear fellow, you had much better give up that nonsense right away. For I myself have been engaged to be christened with Dr. Chasuble at 5:30. And naturally, I will take the name of Ernest. Gwendolen would wish it. Besides, I have a perfect right to be christened if I want to be. There is absolutely no evidence in the past to suggest that I have ever been christened before. In fact, I think it highly improbable, and Dr. Chasuble agrees. You, on the other hand, are a very different matter. Have been christened before.
Yes, but I was christened many years ago.
Yes, but you have been christened. That is the important thing.
Quite so. But my conscience is perfectly stable. If you go babbling about in business such as have you been christened or have you not been christened, you would become unwell. Oh, and we mustn't forget that your poor brother was nearly carried off this week.
Yes, but you said it yourself. A severe chill is not hereditary or anything of the sort.
Yes, I might have said that then, but you never know. Science is making wonderful leaps and bounds these days.
That is nonsense. You are always talking nothing but nonsense.
These muffins are perfectly delectable, Jack. I will eat every last one of them before I go.
Algernon. I wish to goodness you would go. I don't want you here. Why don't you just leave?
I have not finished this tea yet. And Jack, there are still 2 muffins left.
Ah!
The fact that they did not follow us at once into the house seems to me to show that they have some sense of shame left.
They've been eating muffins. That looks like repentance.
You don't seem to notice us at all. Couldn't you cough?
But I haven't to cough.
They're looking at us. What a effrontery.
They're approaching. That's very forward of them.
But let us preserve a dignified silence.
Certainly, it's the only thing to do now.
This dignified silence seems to produce an unpleasant effect.
The most distasteful one.
But we will not be the first to speak.
Certainly not.
Mr. Worthing, there is something very particular I have to ask you. Much depends on your reply.
Gwendolen, your common sense is invaluable. Mr. Moncrieff, kindly answer me the following question. Why did you pretend to be my guardian's brother?
So that I may have an opportunity of meeting you.
Oh, well, that certainly seems a satisfactory explanation.
Oh, yes, dear, if you can believe them.
I don't, but that doesn't change the wonderful beauty of his answer.
True. It matches a great importance. Style, not sincerity, is the vice. Mr. Worthing, what explanation can you offer me for pretending to have a brother? Was it so that you might have an opportunity of coming up to town to see me as often as possible?
Can you doubt it, Miss Fairfax?
No, I have the gravest doubts upon the subject. But I intend to crush them. This is not the time for German skepticism. Well, their explanations appear to be quite satisfactory, especially Mr. Worthing's. That seems to me to have the stamp of truth upon it.
I am more than content with what Mr. Moncrieff said. His voice alone inspires one with absolute credulity.
And then you think we should forgive them?
Yes. I mean, no.
True. I had forgotten there are principles at stake that one cannot surrender. Which one must have taught them? The task is not a pleasant one.
Could we not both speak at the same time?
An excellent idea. I nearly always speak at the same time as other people. Will you take the time for me?
Certainly.
Your
Christian names are still an insuperable barrier. That is all.
Our Christian names? Is that all? Well, we're going to be christened this afternoon!
For my sake, you are prepared to do this terrible thing?
I am.
To please me, are you ready to face this fearful ordeal?
I am.
How absurd it is to talk of the equality of sexes. Where questions of self-sacrifice are concerned, men are infinitely beyond us.
We are.
They have moments of physical courage of which we women know absolutely nothing.
Darling.
Darling, one, one.
Lady Bracknell.
Good heavens!
Gwendolen, what does this mean?
Merely that I am engaged to be married to Mr. Worthing.
Come here, sit down immediately. Hesitation of any kind is a sign of mental decay and beyond, a physical weakness in the old. Apprised, sir, of my daughter's sudden flight by her trusty maid, I came at once by luggage train. Her unhappy father is, I am glad to say, under the impression that she is attending a more than usually lengthy lecture by the University Extension Scheme of the influence of permanent income on thought. I do not propose to undeceive him. Indeed, I have never undeceived him on any question. I would consider it wrong. But of course, you must understand that all communication between yourself and my daughter must cease immediately from this moment. On this point, as indeed on all points, I am firm.
I am engaged to be married to Gwendolen, Lady Bracknell.
You are nothing of the kind, sir. Now as regards Algernon. Algernon?
Yes, Aunt Augusta.
May I ask if it is in this house that your friend Mr. Bunbury resides?
Oh, Bunbury is not present here at the moment. In fact, Bunbury is somewhere else. In fact, Bunbury is dead.
Dead?
Bunbury myself Bunbury died this afternoon.
What did he die of?
Bunbury was quite exploded.
See, the victim of a revolutionary outrage. I was not aware that Mr. Bunbury was interested in social legislation. If so, he is well punished for his morbidity.
Well, you see, Bunbury was going to die. The doctor simply could not keep up with him, so Bunbury died.
He seems to have had great confidence in the opinion of his physicians. I am glad, however, that he has made up his mind at the last some definite course of action, and acted under proper medical advice. Now that we have finally got rid of this Mr. Bunbury, may I ask Mr. Worthing, who is that young person whose hand my nephew Algernon is now holding in what seems to me a peculiarly unnecessary manner?
That lady is Miss Cecily Cardew, my ward.
I am engaged to be married to Cecily, Aunt Augusta.
I beg your pardon.
Mr. Moncrieff and I are engaged to be married, Lady Bracknell.
I do not know if there is anything peculiarly exciting in this part of Hertfordshire. The number of engagements that goes on seems to me considerably above the proper average that statistics has laid down for our guidance. I think some preliminary inquiry on my part would not be out of place. Mr. Worthing, is Miss Cardew at all connected with any of the larger railway stations in London? I merely desire information. Until yesterday, I had no idea there were any families or persons whose origin was a terminus.
Miss Cardew, Lady Bracknell, is the granddaughter of the late Mr. Thomas Cardew of 149 Belgrave Square, Southwest, Gervais Park, Dorking, Surrey, and the Sporen, Fifeshire, NB.
That sounds not unsatisfactory. 3 addresses always inspire confidence. But what proof have I of their authenticity?
I have carefully preserved the court guides of the period. They are open to your inspection, Lady Bracknell.
I have known strange errors in that publication.
Miss Cardew's family solicitors are Messrs. Markby, and Markby.
Markby. Firm of the very highest position in their profession. Indeed, I am told that one of the Mr. Markbys is occasionally to be seen at dinner parties. So far, I am satisfied.
How extremely kind of you, Lady Bracknell. I have also in my possession, you will be pleased to know, records of Miss Cardew's birth, baptism, whooping cough, vaccination, registration, confirmation, and the measles, both the German and the English variety.
A life crowded with incident, I see. Though perhaps somewhat too exciting for a young girl. I myself am not in favor of premature experiences. Come near the time approaches for our departure, we have not a moment to lose. As a matter of form, Mr. Worthing, I had better ask you if Miss Cardew has any little fortune.
Merely £130,000 in the funds. That is all. Goodbye, Lady Bracknell. So pleased to have seen you.
Moment. £130,000 and in the funds. Miss Cardew seems a most attractive young lady now that I look at her. Few girls of the present day have any really solid qualities about them. Any of the qualities that last and improve with time. We live, I regret to say, in an age of surfaces. Come here, dear. Pretty child. Your dress is sadly simple, and your hair seems as though nature might have left it. You can soon alter all that. A thoroughly experienced French maid produces a really marvelous result in a very brief space of time. I remember recommending one to young Lady Dancing, and after 3 months, her own husband did not know her.
And after 6 months, nobody did.
Kindly turn round, dear. Note the side views of her. Quite as I expected. There are distinct social possibilities in your profile. The weak points of our age are its want of principle and its want of profile. The chin a little higher, dear. Style largely depends on the way the chin is worn. They're worn very high just at present. Algernon?
Yes, Aunt Augusta?
There are distinct social possibilities in Miss Cardew's profile.
Well, that is very glad to have heard that. I do not care 2 pence about social possibilities.
Never speak disrespectfully of society, Algernon. Only people who can't get into it do that. Dear child, of course you know that Algernon has nothing but his debts to depend upon. But I do not approve of mercenary marriages. When I married Lord Bracknell, I had no fortune of any kind. But I never dreamed for a moment of allowing that to stand in my way. I suppose I must give my consent.
Thank you, Miss Augusta.
Cecily, you may kiss me.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell.
You may also address me as Aunt Augusta for the future.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
The wedding, I think, had better take place quite soon.
Thank you, Miss Augusta.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
To speak frankly, I'm not in favor of long engagements. They give people the opportunity of finding out each other's character before the marriage. I think it's never advised.
I beg your pardon for interrupting you, Lady Bracknell, but this engagement is quite out of the question. I am Miss Cardew's guardian, and thus she cannot marry without my consent until she comes of age, and that consent I absolutely decline to give.
Upon what grounds, may I ask? Algernon is extremely, I may almost say, an ostentatiously eligible young man. He has nothing but looks everything. What more can I desire?
It pains me to speak frankly about your nephew, Lady Bracknell, but the fact is that I absolutely disapprove of his moral character. I suspect him of being untruthful.
Untruthful? My nephew Algernon? Impossible. He is not so mean.
Oh, I fear there can be no possible doubt about the subject, Lady Bracknell. When I was in London today, on an important question of romance, he obtained entrance to my house under the false pretense of being my brother. He then drank, I had just been informed by my butler, an entire bottle of Perrier-Jouet Gru 89, a wine that I was specially reserving for myself. Continuing his disgraceful deception in the course of the afternoon, he succeeded in alienating the affections of my only ward. He then stayed to tea and devoured every single muffin. And what makes his conduct all the more heartless is that he knew from the start that I have no brother, that I had no brother, and that I certainly have no intention of ever having a brother in the future, not even of any kind. I specifically told him so myself yesterday.
Mr. Wood, after careful consideration, I have decided entirely to overlook my nephew's conduct to you.
Ah, that is very generous of you, Lady Bracknell. However, my objection still stands. I decline to give my consent.
Come here. How old are you?
Well, I'm really just 18, but I always admit to 20 when I go to evening parties.
You're perfectly right in making some slight alteration. Indeed, no woman should ever be quite accurate about her age. Look so calculating. 18, admitting to 20 at evening parties. Well, I suppose it won't be long before you are of age and free from the restraints of tutelage. So I don't think your guardian's consent is, after all, of any importance.
So I beg your pardon for interrupting you once again, Lady Bracknell, but I feel it only fair to tell you that per the terms of her grandfather's will, Miss Cardew does not come of age until she reaches 35.
This all seems to me to be a grave reflection. 35 is a very attractive age. London society is full of women who have, of their own free choice, remained 35 for years. To my knowledge, she has been 35 since she arrived at 40, which was many years ago now. I see no reason why our dear Cecily should not be even more attractive at the age you mentioned than she is at present. There would be a large accumulation of property.
Algie, could you wait for me until I was 35?
Of course I would, Cecily.
Yes, I felt it instinctively, but I couldn't wait all that long. I hate waiting even 5 minutes for people. It makes me rather cross. I'm not punctual myself, I know, but I like punctuality in others, and waiting even to be married is out of question.
Then what shall be done?
I do not know, Mr. Moncrieff.
My dear Mr. Wood, Miss Cardew states positively that she cannot wait till she is 35. A remark which I am bound to say seems to display a somewhat impatient nature. I would beg you to reconsider your decision.
Ah, but the matter is entirely in your hands, Lady Bracknell. The moment that you consent to my marriage with Gwendolen, I will most certainly allow your nephew to form an alliance with my ward.
You must be quite aware that what you propose is out of the question.
Ah, then a passionate celibacy is all any of us can look forward to.
The destiny I propose for Gwendolen. Algernon, of course, can decide for himself. Come, dear, we have already missed 5, not 6 trains. To miss any more might expose us to comment on the platform. Everything is quite ready for christenings. The christenings, is that not somewhat premature? Both of these men have expressed a desire for immediate baptism. At their age, the idea is grotesque and irreligious. Algernon, I forbid you to be baptized. I will not hear of such excesses. Lord, Bracknell would be highly displeased if he learned that this was the way in which you wasted your time. Am I to understand that there is to be no christenings at all this afternoon?
I don't think that under the present circumstances it would benefit either of us, Dr. Chasuble.
I am grieved to hear such sentiments from you, Mr. Worthing. They savor of the heretical views of the Anabaptists, views which I have profoundly refuted in the last 4 of my unpublished sermons. However, as your present mood seems to be one peculiarly secular, I will return to the church at once. Indeed, I have just been informed by the pew openers that for the last hour and a half, Miss Prism has been waiting for me in the vestry. Miss Prism? I hear you mention Miss Prism. Yes, Lady Bracknell, and I'm on my way to join her. May allow me to detain you for a moment. This matter may prove to be of vital importance to Lord Bracknell and myself. Is this Miss Prism a female of repellent aspect, remotely connected with education? She is the most cultivated of ladies and a very picture of respectability! It is obviously the same place. May I ask what position she holds in your household? I am celibate, madam.
Miss Prism, Lady Bracknell. Miss Prism has been, for the past 3 years, the admirable companion and valued governess of Miss Cecily.
Despite what I hear of her, I must see her at once. Let her be sent for. She approaches. She is nigh.
I was told you expected me in the vestry. I have been waiting for you there for an hour and 3/4.
Prism. Come here, Prism. Where is that baby? 28 years ago, you left Lord Bracknell's house, number 104 Upper Rosewood Street, in charge of a perambulator which contained a baby of the male sex. You never returned. A few weeks later, through the elaborate investigations by the Metropolitan Police, the perambulator was discovered at midnight, standing by itself in a remote corner of Baseball. It contained a manuscript of a 3-page novel with more than usually revolting sentimentality. But the baby was not there. Prism, where is that baby?
Lady Bracknell, I admit with shame that I do not know. I only wish I did. The plain facts of the case are these. On the morning of the day mentioned, which is forever branded in my memory, I prepared as usual to take the baby out to his perambulator. I had with me a somewhat old but capacious handbag in which I intended to store a manuscript of a work of fiction I had written in my few unoccupied hours. In a moment of mental abstraction, for which I can never forgive myself, I deposited the manuscript in the bassinet and placed the baby in the handbag.
But where did you deposit the handbag?
Do not ask me, Mr. Worthing.
Miss Prism, this is a matter of no small importance. I insist on knowing where you deposited the handbag that contained that infant.
I left it in the cloakroom of one of the larger railway stations in London.
Which railway station?
Victoria, Brighton line.
I must retire to my room for a moment. Gwendolen, wait here for me.
If you are not too long, I will wait here for you all my life.
What does all this mean, Lady Bracknell? Dare not even suspect, Dr. Chasuble. I need hardly tell you that in families of high position, strange coincidences are not supposed to occur. They are hardly considered a thing. Jack seems strangely agitated. Your guardian has a very emotional nature. Sounding extremely unpleasant. It sounds as if you are having an argument. Slight arguments of any kind, they are always vulgar and often unpleasant. It has stopped now. I wish you would come to some conclusion.
The suspense is terrible. I hope it will last.
Miss Prism! Miss Prism! Is this the handbag? Examine it carefully before you speak. The happiness of more than one answer depends on your answer.
It seems to be mine. Yes, here's the injury received through the upsetting of the Grammar Street omnibus in younger and happier days. Here's the stain on the lining caused by the explosion of a temperance beverage, an incident which occurred in Leamington. And here on the lock are my initials. I had forgotten that in an extravagant mood I had had them placed there. This bag is undoubtedly mine. I'm delighted to have it so unexpectedly returned to me. What a great inconvenience going about it all these years.
Miss Prism, more is restored to you than just that handbag. I was the baby you placed in it.
You?
Yes! Mother!
Worthing, I am unmarried.
Unmarried? I do not deny that is a serious blow. However, who has the right to cast stones against those who have suffered? Can not an act of repentance? Wipe out an act of folly? Why should there be one law for men and another law for women? Mother, I forgive you.
Mr. Worthing, there has been some error. There is the lady who can tell you who you really are.
Lady Bracknell, I hate to seem inquisitive. Would you kindly tell me who I am?
I'm afraid the news I have to give you will not altogether please you. You are the poor son of my sister, Mrs. Moncrieff, and consequently, Algernon's elder brother.
Archie's elder brother? Well, then I always knew I had a brother. I always said I had a brother. Cecily, how could you have doubted me when I said I had a brother? Gwendolen, my unfortunate brother. Miss Prism, my unfortunate brother. Dr. Chasuble, my unfortunate brother. Oh, Algie, you had much better treat me with more respect in the future. You have not acted like a brother to me in your entire life.
My dear fellow, I hardly knew I was your brother until this very moment!
I know that. What name are you? Well, what is your Christian name now that you have become someone else?
Heavens, I quite forgot that point. I suppose your decision on the subject of my name is irrevocable.
No, I never change, except in my affections.
And the question had better be cleared up at once. And Augusta, a moment. At the time when I was placed in the handbag, how did I be christened yet?
Every luxury that money could buy, including christening, had been lavished on you by your doting parents.
I was christened. So that is settled. Now, what was my Christian name? Tell me the worst.
Being the eldest son, you were naturally christened after your father.
Yes, but what was my father's Christian name?
I cannot at the moment recall what Jennings' Christian name was, but I have no doubt he had one. He was eccentric, but as yet, but that was in later years and a result of marriage and indigestion and other things of that kind.
Algie, can't you recollect what our father's Christian name was?
My dear fellow, I hardly knew the name. He died when I was very young.
I suppose his name would be in the army list of the period, wouldn't it?
The general was essentially a man of peace, except in his domestic life. I have no doubt his name would appear in any military directory.
Army list for the past 40 years. Oh, right there! These records should have been my constant source of study. And generals. Malum, Maximum, Magley. Oh, what ghastly names they have. Higsby, Hobbs, Moncrieff. Lieutenant, 1840. Captain, Lieutenant Colonel, General, 1869. Christian names. Ernest John. Gwendolen. I always said my name was Earnest, didn't I? Well, now it really is Earnest. I mean, it naturally is Earnest.
Sanctuary has some particular reason for disliking the name so.
Ernest, my own Ernest! I felt from the first you could have no other name.
Oh, Gwendolen, it's a very unfortunate thing for a man to find out that his whole life he has been telling nothing but the truth. Can you forgive me?
Oh, I can, for I feel that you are sure to change.
Oh, my own one!
Letitia! Friedrich at last!
Cecily!
Gwendolen,
My nephew
last.
seemed to be displaying signs of triviality.
On the contrary, Aunt Augusta, I finally realized for the first time in my life the vital importance of being earnest.